Hello, I'm Linda Sandhu. Welcome to the Profile Series. I'm here today with Susan Schneider. Susan, you are the Senior Service Corps Director for the RSVP program, and I know there's other things in your title, so I'm going to have you sort of introduce yourself and talk about what the RSVP program is.
Okay, great. Well, the RSVP, Senior Service Corps program, is a federally nationally known volunteer program. And we are part of the Corporation for National and Community Services, but we're also a program of elder services right here in South Dennis. As such, we have about 550 volunteers. All of our volunteers are over 55. And we identify critical need areas in the community, and then we partner with agencies to place volunteers in those agencies that are going to work on those areas. So across the country, we have about 750 of these programs. And in Massachusetts, there are 15. And our area on the Cape is, we're responsible for the Cape and Islands. And we have partnerships with about 90 agencies.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
and I know we take
busy.
Advantage of it here at the Media Center.
Yeah, we partner with you, and we have volunteers here as well.
Yes, we love our volunteers. Talk a little bit about how this program got started, because I think that's important for people to know. And then I'm going to have you touch briefly on the other arms of it, because there's a lot involved with this program, isn't there?
Yes.
So I'm kind of asking a lot of questions at once, but I'll let you go at it.
Well, it's, like I said, it's a program of the Corporation for National Community Service, which is a federal agency. And all of our activities and hours are reported to that agency. It's a granted program, so every 3 years our grant is renewed, rewritten, and hopefully approved. And it has been since 1993. And that's when we were absorbed into Elder Services as a program. What we do is, get information through research, through different agencies on the Cape that do research, different publications and documentation, and we try to put that together in a picture of the Cape. Once we get that in our heads, what that looks like, we can identify areas of unmet need. And so typically unmet needs are things like transportation to medical appointments, which is probably one of the #1 things.
I would think so.
Yep. As you know, the demographics are that we have a lot of older people on the Cape, and as people age in place, which is preferred by most people, they need more support.
Absolutely.
So we have a lot of social service agencies that we work with to give that support. So they can be things like, people can be involved in activities such as councils on aging, in various capacities within the Council on Aging in different towns. They can be working with people to drive, like I said earlier, to drive to medical appointments. We have people that do the Meals on Wheels program, which is a program of elder services. And that includes people that do the work with the congregate dining sites, where people gather to eat.
Right.
Instead of receiving their meal at home. So that would be one group. Under our main umbrella of the large program, we have a group called Adults Benefiting Children. So that means that people that want to volunteer with children, and the largest part of that group is the tutors. We have about 80+ tutors, and they work within about 22 schools.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really grown over the past several years from basically just a reading program to improve people's reading skills, and it's branched out based on teacher school need. So Ann Gallagher, she's our coordinator, former teacher, taught at South Boston High School, so she was in the trenches, so to speak, and she worked in Falmouth for many years, so she really knows how schools operate and what teachers need and what they do. So she recruits with the rest of our team for people who want to tutor. A lot of people are teachers or were teachers, but you don't have to be. You just have to have the desire to want to work with kids. So the way that program has branched out is that as schools have needed to, have requested other things like, gee, I need a math tutor. Do you think you could find somebody? She would say to me, what do you think? Do you think we can get somebody for that? Or do you think it's okay if we look? I said, if you can find a volunteer that wants to do that, do it. Go for it.
Absolutely.
So we've really done, that by request. So we have math, we have science volunteers, we have people who are doing language arts, creative writing. They're working in book clubs, which was a concept one of our volunteers developed. And we started that probably in 2009 with one little prototype at the Wixon, and we have about 30 book clubs now.
That's so great.
Yeah, the schools really latched on to that. So obviously everybody reads the same book.
Sure.
But the volunteer leader, as an adult, has a different viewpoint, and the kids have different viewpoints.
Yeah.
And they read out loud, they share their ideas. Some kids are great readers, some kids not as good, but it gives them a venue to come together.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been very, very popular. It's taken off.
Yeah.
So we're really happy about that.
That's great.
The other group that I mentioned earlier was the Friends and Neighbors group. I didn't mention the name of the group, but basically a social service agency would come under that group. The focus of that is really to keep people independent as long as possible. And whether that's in their home or, if they're a volunteer ombudsman in the long-term care program and they're in the nursing home, the resident at the nursing home, that may be their home now.
Right.
So whatever we can do to keep them comfortable in their setting as long as possible and safe is what we try to put volunteers, in place to do.
I think it's great. I'm listening to you this whole time and thinking, who gets the best benefit from this, whether it be the kids or the adults. We both know so many older people who wouldn't get out of the house if it weren't for your program, and that's
a big
such
benefit.
a gift. It's a huge gift for them to say that they belong to your organization.
It is, because I think, I've looked at a lot of research, and I know other people have, about the benefits of volunteering. And actually, people live longer when they do different things, like belong to a group and volunteer and get outside of themselves.
Yes.
We get a lot of good feedback. People stay with us a long time. Of course, we have people that move in and out. We have people that get sick, and different things happen in their lives, and we understand that. But we have a lot of steady, long-term volunteers, and they just want to keep going.
I know so many involved that love it. Absolutely
love it.
Talk a little bit about the process of, say somebody's watching the show and say, hey, I could be doing that.
Right.
What would you like the people to be doing?
Okay. So what we do is, and I should go back one quick minute and mention the Senior Environment Corps.
Oh, yes.
The other group, the third group, is the Senior Environment Corps. They came into play when, it was just came on board with the idea of getting involved in more environmental groups, working towards the water source, keeping that safe, and keeping land and wildlife preserved and safe, and also restored. So I can give you a few examples of what we do, and then educating the public and children about environmental issues. So one of the things we've done recently, for example, is what we call a tour to trash. And we have been having groups pick up trash in areas that are trashed, unfortunately, and recycling that. So it's extended to places like Monomoy Island.
Oh, wonderful.
And we've worked with the Chatham Harbor Master, and he sends us out on the good beach days into different areas that a lot of people you can't access.
Sure.
But because of the nature of the land, they hook trash that's coming off boats or whatever. It's not that people are necessarily doing that, but it gets stuck. So we've done that. We do things like water testing for different reasons. We do census of different species. So for example, the horseshoe crab census. At the times when the horseshoe crabs are out on the beach, they do a census for reasons of protecting the numbers of horseshoe crabs. Because horseshoe crabs are used for different medical procedures, and they're used sometimes for bait, we want to make sure that, you know, the agencies that are looking at that get the data they need to see if the census is adequate.
That's wonderful.
So there's a whole bunch of things that people that are scientifically minded or just want to be outside or just want to, you know, learn, because even, you know, I didn't know much about what they did until I came on board, and I've learned so much about different species and why we do it. I'd be like, it didn't connect for me, and then I'd say, why do we do that? So we really have an expert on board. We have Arthur Neal, he's our fieldwork coordinator, and he has an office up at the, I know it's not the MMR anymore, it's Joint Base Otis, I think they call it.
Right.
So he's up there, and he works with them and other agencies to do all these projects.
That's wonderful.
And then we also have a volunteer coordinator down here on the Cape, so they split the Cape. Her name is Polly Goddard, and she works with agencies from sort of the middle of the Cape out to do the same type of projects with volunteers down this end of the Cape. Arthur is a retired Massachusetts wildlife biologist.
Wow.
So he has a lot of background, he knows a lot of people, and he's got a lot of education, and he can tell you why we're doing things. Polly's worked with a lot of volunteer programs before she came to us, and headed up environmental programs. So she's a very excellent addition to the group.
That's wonderful.
So we're really lucky to have both of them as well. So your original question was, how do you go about becoming involved?
Right. Well, it seems like if there's so much that somebody could just come in and say, this is what I like, and you could almost match them up with whatever that is, it sounds like.
Yeah, we really do have so much available.
It's amazing.
I don't think you could be bored for very long. You know, some of our volunteers really gravitate to one agency or one type of work. Others go right across the board. We have volunteers that do a little bit of everything, and we get their timesheet, and they've been in 5 different agencies. So
that's wonderful.
It's very varied, and it's really up to the volunteer. We do not require people do a minimum or maximum of hours. We do require a timesheet so that we can record their hours and keep them in an active status, which is important for a couple reasons. When someone comes in to volunteer, we have them sign an application. We go over what their interests might be and tell them what they're going to, you know, what they can expect. We also work with them to get their CORI, the criminal record background check has to be done. Once that comes back to us that it's good to go, then we send the volunteer out. So the agency they're going to knows that they've been CORI'd already, and the agency knows that they have insurance with us, the volunteer insurance, and they know that they're going to get the training, or if there's training available at that service partner agency, they're going to get that training. So all of those are good for the volunteer to know as well as the service partner.
Absolutely.
Once the volunteer decides what they want to do, yes, they come in and sit down with us. We work with them, we take an ID picture, you know, we get them all settled with their agency, and check in with them from time to time and let them know we're there. And we have a monthly newsletter too. So the monthly newsletter is sent out to everybody, and it's all of the service partners, you know, wish list. What do you need for volunteers?
Which is so great.
Yeah, which really helps, you know, them, and it's free advertisement, but it also helps our volunteers. We also recruit on a couple of websites. Volunteer Match is one of them. Cape Cod Volunteers is another one. And I think we are on a couple of others. But if you Google our name, it's hard not to find where you can get opportunities.
Right.
But, you know, people can call. We're always there, either myself or Linda Merrill. She's our volunteer coordinator. She works directly with the volunteers. But we all work as a team, so we all work, with the volunteers to get people settled in where they want, and help them out. If they're having a problem or they're not sure what to do, or
sometimes it's just not a good fit.
We've had that happen. It's just not a good fit. That's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's trial and error. That's okay. Right. That's exactly what we do. Because we've been doing this for so long, we really do have that expertise. And we have the backing of Elder Services expertise to help us when we, need help as well as a program. So we're very fortunate in that regard. Yeah. So once somebody is organized as a volunteer, the benefits to them would be that they can request mileage on their timesheet, and we reimburse them up to 100 miles a month.
That's nice.
Yeah, it helps because some people wouldn't be able to do the volunteer,
exactly.
Driving and whatever. We have the insurance, as I mentioned. We also have a luncheon, which we like to recognize our volunteers at that time. Anytime we get a special event happening, like we may have a volunteer, like we did last year at the Audubon, and she was recognized by the Patriots at one of the games.
Oh, cute.
For, they had a year of volunteering, and they recognized volunteers. So, we put her in our newsletter. We highlight the volunteers in that way.
Yeah.
We had, like I mentioned earlier, I think we had a 20-year anniversary in October. And that was lovely because we had all of the volunteers that could come together. We recognized people who had served over 2,000 hours, over 3,000 hours.
Wow.
And we had someone that had served over 5,000 hours.
That's wonderful.
She received the President's Lifetime Award.
Oh.
Yeah, it was great, because
really nice.
people were recognized in public for what they did.
Yeah, and volunteering is an interesting thing because it's so personal, and sometimes you're doing it just on your own. And so to also have a sense of belonging and recognition is huge.
Yeah, people are, and it's true because at any given time, the volunteers are sort of scattered out there.
Yes.
But when they can come together, it's really nice.
That's wonderful.
So they can come together and, meet each other and talk about things and, be recognized for what they do, which is extremely important for us.
Oh, yeah. I think it's great. Susan, I know we talked briefly about we want to have you back on a regular basis to talk about the different opportunities.
Okay, great.
And also to bring in your colleagues to talk about what their branches are doing or their arm of the organization are doing.
Okay.
And keep this dialogue going because I think people need to be reminded that there's volunteer needs out there, but that also it's rejuvenating to get involved.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people will find that they'll have fun.
Yes.
They really will have a good time. And it's a way to meet people. As you can imagine, a lot of people move to the Cape.
Exactly.
They don't know anybody yet.
Right.
And they've met, people this way.
Sure.
So it's a good way to, just get out there.
Yeah.
I think our fortune is that the Cape is totally rich in the type of people we have here. Because we have people that retire, we have very well-educated, very well-versed, great life skills, work skills. And you know what? Whatever you've done in the past is great. It doesn't have to be that you have a PhD. You can just be somebody that, was a mom and somebody that was a teacher, somebody that was a nurse, whatever you've done, come on in and we'll set you up with something.
I think it's so great.
And I think one of the things that I think the 3 points to remember is that you need to be 55 and over because we are a senior service corps. We need to have you come in and send fill out an application, and that we need to get your query done and get you ready to go. I know before I left the office, Ann said to me, "Don't forget, I need more tutors in the DY." Dennis Yarmouth's system. I said, I promise I'll mention that. So that's a current need.
So tutors in the DY school system.
Yeah.
But again, it's very important to go through your organization because there's that safety net of being accountable. So it's, and we talked just briefly, and we can go back to that a little bit, the importance of going to you and then being put in the right organization, as opposed to trying a bunch of organizations.
To find it on your own.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, one of the things we do is we can, we run interference if we have an issue, if we have, an agency that isn't responding, or we have an agency that we need to help along the way to get them started.
Sure.
We do that all the time.
I think that's wonderful.
So I think that people won't feel frustrated by just throwing their name out
Right.
and saying, where can I go?
Right.
So,
And tutoring, I love the idea of the
Yeah.
elder service getting involved with the schools, because
Yeah.
what a great match. What an absolutely great match.
it is. It's great. If you have time, I just want to say the other one thing that people should remember that's important for some people is we do have one-time events.
Okay,
So for
yes.
example, we are involved in the Dress a Live Doll for the Salvation Army, and it is a yearly event. Some people just every year call up and say, I'm ready, I'm ready. And they do other things too sometimes during the year, but sometimes people don't have time, and that's their pet event, for
Right.
example. So we have people that will do that. We wrap books at Barnes & Noble. This year we're going to be there 22, 23, and 24 of December, all day long, wrapping books for donations.
That's
and
wonderful.
That money goes right back to Barnes & Noble because we buy books at the end of the year for every child that was tutored.
Oh, that's so
we
great.
bring it in and we bring it, it goes
Yeah.
right back out again.
Yeah.
And the tutors give us what those kids want for book titles, and we literally take a list and search down the books and purchase them with that money, and they go back out. So that's a one-time event.
That's great.
And there are things like that that people...
And I think that's a great way for people to get involved.
Yep.
Just do it once, get used to how other people do
Yep.
it. Volunteering can be intimidating.
Yeah, and if they don't, it's like what your time frame is, and I think we all understand that.
Absolutely.
So it's important to have that option.
Great,
too.
great. Well, Susan, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
Thank you very
And we'll
much
look
for
forward,
having us.
We'll look forward to having you.
Great, we would love it.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm Linda Sandhu. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.